Leafs Nation, this is one of those moments where you can really feel the direction of the team shifting. Victor here. In the span of just a few hours, we saw the Maple Leafs sell multiple players at the trade deadline. And then here General Manager is Brad Treliving step in front of the media and take responsibility, saying the failures this season start with him. That's not something you hear every day from a GM. Toronto moved players like Bobby McMahon and Scott Laughton to recoup draft picks. And now, the big question is, what does this actually mean for the future of this team? Is this just a small reset, or the beginning of something much bigger for the Leafs? Before we break it all down, do me a quick favor. If you're part of Leafs Nation and you follow the team as closely as I do, hit like and subscribe. We're pushing to reach 1,000 subscribers, and your support really helps the channel grow. All right, let's talk about what just happened in Toronto, because this deadline and Treliving's comments might tell us a lot about where this team is headed next. The biggest headline is simple. Treliving took responsibility. He said it directly. The failures here start with me. And honestly, that's something fans needed to hear. This season has clearly not gone the way anyone expected. And for the GM to step up and say that the responsibility starts with him says a lot about how serious the situation is. Now, he didn't give a full breakdown of what the future looks like. He even said that Friday wasn't autopsy day, since the team still has 19 games left in the season. But he did admit some important things. First, he acknowledged roster construction issues. Second, he admitted he's been concerned for a while about the team's play. And if you're a Leafs fan, that probably doesn't surprise you. The team has struggled for weeks, especially coming out of the Olympic break, where they went 0-4-2 and fell 8 points out of a playoff spot. Treliving also pointed to injuries this season, especially on defense and in goal, with players like Chris Tanev, Joseph Woll, and Anthony Stolarz missing significant time. But he also made it clear that injuries alone aren't an excuse. He basically said that if a team is deep enough and good enough, it should be able to overcome that. And the Leafs never really did. That's why the front office made the decision to sell at the deadline and recoup assets. According to Treliving, that plan was actually decided before the Olympic break, once it became clear the team wasn't gaining traction. So Toronto moved Nicholas Roy, Bobby McMahon, and Scott Laughton, and in total, the Leafs added 5 draft picks this week. The goal is simple: start rebuilding the asset pool after years of trading picks during their long playoff run. But even Treliving admitted something important. He hoped for more. The market simply didn't bring the kind of offers they wanted. And that's where the frustration comes in for a lot of fans. Because when you step back, this deadline feels less like a bold reset and more like a team trying to stabilize after a disappointing season. Treliving also defended head coach Craig Berube, saying when things go wrong, everyone shares responsibility. Management, coaches, and players. And you can feel the frustration across the team. Joseph Woll said losing in this situation sucks. John Tavares called the deadline the elephant in the room. And Auston Matthews is currently in a 10-game goal drought, even though the organization still believes he's entering the prime of his career. So the message from management is clear. This season hasn't worked, the roster has issues, and changes are coming. The only real question now is how big those changes will be. And that's exactly where the conversation around the Leafs really starts heating up. Because once the deadline passed and fans looked at the moves that were actually made, a lot of people around the league started asking a different question. Did the Leafs really do enough? Now let's talk about the reaction around the league after this deadline, because this is where things start getting uncomfortable. Victor here. Even though Brad Treliving took responsibility and explained the reasoning behind selling at the deadline, a lot of analysts and insiders are now questioning how this whole situation was handled. And the criticism is pretty straightforward. The Leafs entered this season with expectations. Just last year, they finished first in the Atlantic Division and pushed the eventual Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers to 7 games in the playoffs. But fast forward to now, and the team looks completely different. They've lost 6 straight games, they're sitting outside the playoff picture, and instead of adding pieces at the deadline, the front office was forced into selling mode. That alone tells you how much the season slipped away. Now, the part that really sparked debate is the return Toronto got for those players. Treliving moved Bobby McMahon to Seattle and Scott Laughton to Los Angeles. but the returns were relatively modest. Draft picks that may help in the future but don't exactly change the direction of the franchise overnight. And that's why some insiders say this deadline felt underwhelming. The plan was to restock assets, but the results didn't exactly create excitement. In fact, even Treliving admitted he hoped the team would be able to collect more young assets than they actually did. And there's another layer to this criticism. Some of the decisions made over the last year are now being looked at under a microscope. Moves like giving up a first-round pick and prospect Fraser Minton last season for Brandon Carlo, or trading for Scott Lawton with a first-round pick only to move him again now for a much smaller return. When you line those moves up side by side, it raises some tough questions about the team's long-term asset management. And that's why this deadline is being seen by some as a symbol of the entire season. High expectations, followed by confusion, frustration, and a roster that never really found consistency. Now, to be fair, Treliving did make one thing clear. He believes change is necessary. He said the organization needs to sit down after the season, analyze everything honestly, and decide what direction the team should take next. And he also made it clear that responsibility doesn't fall on one person alone. Not just the coach, not just the players, but everyone in the organization. But for Leafs fans, that uncertainty is probably the hardest part. Because right now, we know the team is disappointed. We know management sees the problems. We know changes are coming. What we don't know yet is what those changes will actually look like. And that's where these two stories really connect. On one side, you have a general manager standing up and saying the failures start with him. On the other side, you have a trade deadline that left a lot of people wondering if the response was big enough. Put those two together, and what they reveal about the Leafs right now is simple. This is a turning point. The team that spent nearly a decade pushing for playoff runs is suddenly stepping back, collecting assets, and questioning parts of its roster construction. That doesn't necessarily mean a full rebuild is coming, but it does mean the next few months, especially the offseason, could define the future of this franchise. And as a fan, all you can really hope for now is that this difficult season actually leads to the kind of changes that finally push this team forward. Because one thing is clear, the way things were going wasn't working anymore. So when you connect everything that happened today, Leafs Nation, the message becomes pretty clear. Brad Treliving stepped in front of the media and said the failures start with him. That's accountability, and honestly, that matters. But at the same time, the deadline itself showed just how far this team has slipped from where it expected to be. Instead of adding pieces for a playoff run, the Leafs were selling players and collecting draft picks. Instead of talking about a cup push, the conversation has shifted to roster construction, future assets, and possible changes ahead. That tells you exactly where this team is right now, not where they wanted to be, and definitely not where Leafs Nation expected them to be after last season. But here's the thing, sometimes a difficult season forces an organization to be honest. And maybe that's what this moment is. Maybe this is the point where the Leafs step back, reassess everything, and build something stronger for the future. As fans, all we can really ask now is one thing, that the people running this team learn from this year and make the right decisions moving forward. Because one disappointing season is one thing. But Leafs Nation deserves to see this team get back to competing again. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the Leafs handled this trade deadline the right way, or do you feel like the team should have done more? Drop your thoughts down in the comments. I read them all, and I love hearing what Leafs Nation thinks about moments like this. And if you enjoy talking Leafs hockey like this, real reactions, real conversations about what's happening with the team, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers here on Leafs Nation Report, and every single one of you helps us get there. So if you want to stay updated on everything happening with the Leafs, news, trades, and what could be a very interesting offseason, stick around, because something tells me the next chapter of this team is just getting started.